She is a passionate advocate for humanizing technology, ethics in AI, and diversity. She's been recognized Fortune's 40 Under 40 list and as one of Forbes' top 50 women in tech. It's my honor to invite on this stage Dr. Rana el Kaliouby, the author of Girl Decoded and co-founder and CEO at Affectiva, bringing emotional intelligence to technology. Hi, Rana. I see Rana is here. She's backstage and she will join us in a minute.
Hello.
Hi, Rana.
Hi, Anna. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Good. How's the event been so far? Good?
It's been great. You know, we've been receiving lots of positive response on different social media and the chat. The audience is very welcoming. They're very engaging. So I'm very happy about everything that's going on.
Great.
And thanks a lot for joining us. I will leave the stage to you.
Okay.
Please enjoy.
All right. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I assume I'm live. I am Rana el Kaliouby. I'm co-founder and CEO of Affectiva. We are an MIT spin-out on a mission to humanize technology. I'm also the author of the new book, Girl Decoded, here. And it is a book that kind of covers my personal journey as well as the journey of building artificial emotional intelligence. I'm very excited to be here with you. I wish we would have been doing this in person, but I hope you're all staying well and safe and continuing to stay connected. So for today, I just wanted to take a few minutes to really tell you a little bit about my story and share some of my kind of key learnings over the last few years building my company and building this type of technology. But I also would like to start maybe with the technology first. I always find that kind of the most interesting part of what I have to say. So I'm on a mission to humanize technology. This started over 20 years ago. And basically my thesis was, emotions are really important. They matter in every aspect of our lives, how we make decisions, big ones or small, how we connect with one another, and how we learn. And it also affects our health and well-being. And I had this moment in my journey where I realized that computers can be very intelligent. You know, AI is all about automation and efficiency and doing things faster. But not really about the human connection. And it hit me that in humans, our intelligence isn't just your cognitive intelligence. It's not just about your IQ. Your EQ really matters. Your ability to sense and adapt to other people's emotional and mental states is really important. And people who have higher EQs tend to do better in life. They are better, you know, they're more likable. They have a better ability to motivate and persuade others to do things, and they're just more effective all around. So I had this aha moment that, oh, technology has a lot of IQ, but no EQ. What if we build emotional intelligence into our technologies and into our devices? What if our computer could understand human emotions just the way we do as humans? You know, what if my computer, my machine, my phone could tell the difference between a smile and a smirk? And what kind of applications and use cases would that unlock? So I grew up in the Middle East. I'm originally from Egypt. I lived in Cairo as well as Kuwait and Abu Dhabi in the UAE. And then I studied computer science as an undergraduate at the American University in Cairo. And from then on, I really wanted to be a faculty. So I was really interested in teaching. And to do that, I was like, okay, I have to go abroad, get a PhD, and then come back and teach. And so I had the opportunity, I got a scholarship to go do my PhD at the computer science department at Cambridge University. And I got to Cambridge and I realized that I was spending more time in front of my machine than I did with any other human being. A lot of us spend a lot of time in front of our devices. So it's not just me, I think. But then I kind of realized that it was also, my device was also the main portal of communication I had with my family back home. And all of the richness of our nonverbal communication. I mean, only 10% of how we communicate is in the choice of words we use. 90% is nonverbal. So I realized that the 90% of our facial expressions, our gestures, our vocal intonations, all of that is really lost in cyberspace when we connect with each other virtually. So that set me on a journey to build machines and algorithms using computer vision and machine learning and deep learning to understand kind of the building blocks of how we communicate as people. So that kind of became the main topic of my thesis at Cambridge. And from then on, towards the end of my PhD, actually, I met my role model and mentor, Professor Rosalind Picard. She started the field of affective computing at MIT, and I had the opportunity to read her book, and I was really inspired by her work. So very serendipitously, she was giving a keynote at Cambridge where I was studying, and I reached out to her and we ended up meeting and really clicking, and she invited me to join her lab as a postdoc at MIT. So I did that, and the first project we collaborated on was really the application of my facial analysis algorithms and technology to autism. So individuals on the autism spectrum have big trouble reading and understanding other people's nonverbal cues. They actually find the face super intense and almost overwhelming. And so they avoid it altogether. If you've interacted with kids on the spectrum or adults on the spectrum, you will notice that they often avert or avoid eye gaze, eye contact, and the face contact altogether because it's just a lot of information. So we built these Google Glass-like devices with cameras on and deployed this in a school for autistic children. And the kids were able to get real-time feedback around their nonverbal communication, which was really very powerful, and it helped a lot of the kids. But being at MIT, we had a lot of connection with the industry as well. And twice a year, we would host all these companies. And we called it Sponsor Week. And internally, the code name was Demo or Die. We had to have, we had to basically be able to show a demo of or a prototype of what we were building. You would never walk in with slides or nothing to show. And for a number of years, the Fortune 500 companies, all of which were sponsors of the lab, or many of which were sponsors of the lab, would say, oh, have you thought about applying this technology in customer experience or in product testing or content testing or in automotive to detect if a driver is distracted or falling asleep? So I kept a log of all these different applications. And when we reached to about 20 of these applications, I took this with Roz, and we went to the lab director at the time, and we said, we need to hire 10 more PhD students because there's so much interest in what we're doing. And he said, this is not a research opportunity anymore. This is a commercialization opportunity, and you really have a chance to start a company here. And for me, the tipping point, because I really wanted to become faculty, remember, that was kind of my career goal. But for me, it was an opportunity to take something I was very passionate about and apply it globally at scale. Like I really wanted to take this technology that was kind of almost stuck in the lab and bring it to the whole world. And that was the tipping point for starting Affectiva, which we started about 10 years ago. And we've been on this journey to bring emotion AI to the world. And I'll talk about some of the use cases that we are focused on at the company, but also some of the use cases that I'm very passionate about that I see a lot of potential for. The first market opportunity that presented itself to us was really identifying how consumers emotionally engage with content. So we all consume a ton of content online, right? Some of it is, a lot of it is pretty boring, but some of it is actually really engaging and really thoughtful and really emotional. Well, there is no way to assess how emotional content is other than asking people, which taps into kind of the cognitive part of your brain. We wanted to measure moment by moment, how are people responding? And, fast forward about 8 years now, we are in 90 countries around the world. Our technology is being used by 25% of the Fortune Global 500. And they use our technology to understand how people emotionally connect with this content. a very kind of interesting adjacent market that we're exploring just as a result of this global pandemic is the online virtual event space. Exactly kind of what we're doing right now. If we were live, I would see you all and I would get a chance to riff off of the energy of you as an audience. I would get a sense if you're engaged, if you're bored, if I say something funny, do you laugh? Do you not laugh? And that will help me adapt my presentation better. I've been doing, especially with the book launch, I've had to do a virtual book tour, which is how I found Anna actually. And so I'm fortunate that I get to connect with people I wouldn't have ordinarily connected with, but I really miss this audience interaction. And so I keep imagining if, for example, Emotion AI was integrated into this particular virtual events platform, I could see a real-time readout of the emotional engagement of the audience. So if you're engaged, hopefully you are, I would see like a lot of like, I don't know, positive peaks. If you're really sitting there and you're like, oh God, like when is she going to be done? Then maybe I see a flat or even a negative curve. Or maybe it's visualized through emojis. I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of creativity that can go into how we craft these virtual experiences to create more of a sense of a shared experience, not a one-way conversation. So this is something that we are really looking into right now. And if you in the audience, if this is something that interests you, please do reach out. I would love to brainstorm and see how we could bring that to fruition, given that, unfortunately, I think we're going to be doing a lot of these virtual events and virtual connections for a while. Another area where we're exploring very heavily is the automotive industry, which is undergoing a ton of disruption with mobility and shared mobility and whatnot. And there, what we're doing is we're applying our technology to in-cabin sensing to really understand what's happening inside the cabin, starting with the driver. Is the driver attentive, distracted, drowsy, extremely tired, asleep? Believe me, we've seen examples of people driving literally while asleep. Of course, that's extremely dangerous. So that's one application. But it's not just the driver, it's what's happening with the other occupants in the vehicle. And can we sense their mood and sentiment and maybe personalize the riding experience so that it's more comfortable, it's more enjoyable, it's more memorable. We're doing a lot of work also kind of trying to detect what objects people are interacting with. So if I am doing this, and I have a phone in my hand, then I'm texting while driving, and that's unsafe. Or if I have a phone, like a phone in my hand. So object detection becomes really important as we kind of build this holistic in-cabin sensing environment. There's other applications. One that I'm very passionate about is mental health. We know that there are facial and vocal biomarkers for things like autism, depression, stress, anxiety, Parkinson's, and more. And we, at Affectiva, we have little collaborations with a few folks in the mental health space, but there's a lot more that can be done. And I believe there's, especially again, given that a lot of, we're moving very quickly into the telehealth space, there's a lot of applications for the technology there as well. I really believe that eventually this is going to become the de facto human-machine interface. We're just going to interact with technology the way we interact with one another, through conversation, through perception, and through empathy. Which brings me to kind of a little bit about my story, right? I've been, I started off in the Middle East, and I grew up in a relatively, conservative, but also liberal family. My parents were very, very pro-education for me and my two younger sisters, but we had to adhere to very strict gender roles. And now, of course, I'm kind of a CEO of a tech, an AI company, and there's not a lot of women in that space. So I find myself, again, kind of challenging being in a male-dominated society. There was a story that I share in my book. When we started the company, we hired a CEO, a seasoned business executive to run the company. I was the chief technology officer. And a few years in, he decided to move on. And the question became, who's the next CEO? And a few people on our board said, well, Rana should be the CEO because it's her company, it's her baby, it's her technology. And I just thought about it, and I had all these inner doubts. I remember thinking, what if I fail? I've never been CEO before. Like, what if I fail? And so I didn't raise my hand. At the same time, our head of sales at the company, who had also never been CEO, he said, "Sure, I'll do it. I'll step into the role," and he became CEO. And after a couple of years, I was giving a TED talk, and on my flight back, I just had an opportunity to really think about this, and I realized I actually went on Google and I Googled, like, what are the roles and responsibilities of a CEO, and I kind of created a bullet list. And I had this realization that I was already doing the job. I was, we've raised over $53 million of venture and strategic funding for the company. I've been really at the forefront of that. I was evangelizing the company and the technology space, emotion AI as a field. Obviously very passionate about all of this. And it just made me realize that I was already doing the job. And so I mustered a lot of my courage and went to him and said, first, I wanted us to be co-CEO. And over time, the more we talked, I was like, actually, I want to be the CEO. And we took that to the board, and it was a unanimous vote. And I just hit my 4th year anniversary for being the CEO of the company. And I'm very proud of the work we've done, but it also underscores that I was really the main obstacle in my own way. I was the hardest person to convince. Once I convinced myself and I kind of pivoted my mindset that I can do this, even though I hadn't done it before, everybody else was so easy to convince. And so my advice to you all out there is, as you kind of negotiate with this voice in your head that tells you that you can't do something, or you won't do something, or you should not do something, kind of challenge that voice and say, really, I think I actually can. So that was kind of one key learning. The other is the power that we each have as leaders in our communities, and especially me as a business leader and a founder and a CEO of a company. I really do feel that I'm empowered, and I encourage you all again to feel that way and use your voice as an agent for change, especially in these times. I know this is a very international and global audience, which I love, but we are at a very special moment, and challenging and horrific, actually, moment in the US today, where once again, the systemic injustices that exist in our societies is becoming front and center. And, I grew up in the Middle East, and of course there's that there too. And I feel very strongly that, I can't change all of it, but in my little community, I definitely can make changes, and especially by committing to diversity in the tech space. And diversity comes in all forms. Gender diversity, of course, is really critical. Ethnic and racial diversity is absolutely paramount, and even age diversity is important, and diversity of backgrounds. You don't just have to be a technologist to contribute to an AI company. In fact, we welcome different backgrounds. So I'm just, I'm very vocal about the importance of diversity, and I'm a huge advocate for it. And I really believe that, we can affect change if you can just change one person's life. I mean, I do these events with the hope that if one person out there gets inspired, and, I'm able to play a small role in the rest of your journey, or in shaping your journey, then I feel like then there's a respect, right? Because, one of you out there becomes empowered, you go off, do amazing things, you're able to create new job opportunities and new opportunities for people in your community. That's a win. So again, I just want to kind of end with a note that I feel very passionate about. Of course, taking a human-centric approach to how we think, design, and deploy our technologies. So that's kind of on the technology front. And of course, adhering to ethics and privacy and diversity. These are all core values that we as a company advocate for. And then on the personal level, just kind of taking note from my journey that I talk a lot about in my book, Girl Decoded, and some of the lessons I've had to learn, particularly about embracing my inner voice, negotiating with this inner doubt, but using that as a platform to be an empathetic leader and be an agent for change. Thank you. I'm very easy to find on social media. If you would love to connect or have ideas or feedback, or if you've read the book or if you've heard the book, I recorded the audiobook as well in my own voice. So if you're into audiobooks, please consider that and share your stories with me. It really, I found that the book is the beginning of new connections and the beginning of new conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rana. Awesome as always. I really love what you're doing, both being an author, being an advocate, doing cool stuff with Affectiva. I'm a huge fan. I really recommend everyone to read Rana's book, Girl Decoded. And she's also frequently hosting webinars and different live streams with awesome people. Thank you very much, Rana. I'm wishing you a great day. Say hi to your amazing daughter. I really love the conference she hosted for her birthday. That was super cool. Say hi to her. True inspiration, a young and rising star. Very happy about her.
I will tell her. I'll tell her. I'll connect you both. That's great.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Stay with us and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.